Mary was only 17. Her mother was gone, and there was no family left to shield her from the harshness of the man who called himself her stepfather. The ranch, once a place of warmth and safety, had turned into a cage. Ropes bit into her wrists, raw and unforgiving. Her legs stretched against the old wooden fence, leaving her exposed under the relentless sun. Each inhale was a stab of pain. Each heartbeat carried the weight of dread. She was far too young to grasp why her life had twisted into such a nightmare, far too young to face a man seasoned with power and resentment. He struck her when she resisted signing over the ranch papers. He cursed her tears, spat words that cut deeper than leather. She was worthless, a burden, nothing without him. Every lash of his hand left more than bruises. It carved wounds into her spirit. Slowly her childhood dissolved into terror and silence. She had learned to swallow her sobs, to bite until her lips bled, to lock her screams away. But today, she could not keep them in. Her voice tore through the scorching air, raw and desperate. She screamed for help, clinging to a fragile hope that someone, anyone, might hear her. The sun beat mercilessly, sweat mingling with blood on her skin. Dry grass whispered under the wind, a silent witness to her suffering. In her memory, her stepfather's shadow loomed, a constant reminder that the torment would never cease unless she relinquished everything her mother had left. Mary closed her eyes, recalling her mother's gentle smile, the laughter that once filled the air, the ranch that had once felt like home. All that remained now were dust, ropes, bruises, and the cruel mirth of a man who thrived on her agony. Her body shook with exhaustion. Her spirit teetered on the brink of collapse. The future she had dreamed of was being stolen, piece by piece, by a man who called himself family but cared for nothing but his own greed. Her cries echoed across the barren fields, startling birds from their perches. The wind carried her voice far and wide, but would it reach anyone willing to act? Her lips quivered as her strength ebbed, and she whispered into the vast sky, a plea for salvation that may never be answered. Fear coursed through her, not hope, as a single question settled heavy in her chest. If no one came, how long could she endure the grasp of a man who sought to claim her land, her dignity, her very life? Suddenly, the rhythmic pounding of hooves broke the afternoon stillness. John Carter had been riding the dry fields, the wide blue sky stretching above, when a sound caught his attention, a faint, almost elusive cry.
Then it came again, unmistakably human, the anguished call of a young woman.
He halted his horse, brows drawn, and listened. There was desperation in the sound, a weight no man with any heart could ignore. He nudged his horse forward cautiously, the dry grass crackling beneath the hooves. As he drew closer, his eyes narrowed and then widened. There she was, Mary, bound to the fence, dirt and tears streaking her face. Her body bore the marks of abuse, her spirit the stains of betrayal. John's chest tightened, the sight clenching his heart. He had faced much suffering in the West, violent men, friends lost, lives torn apart by fate. But this was deliberate cruelty. Mary's head lifted at the sound of hooves. Her wide eyes glimmered with terror, but also with the faintest hint of hope. Her lips quivered, wordless in their plea. John slid from his horse, red scarf dancing in the wind, and crouched before her. "You're safe now," he rasped, steady and low. "I've got you." Her shoulders trembled, half from relief, half from lingering fear. John drew his knife, sunlight glinting off the blade, and sliced through the ropes. Each fiber snapped sharply like chains breaking free. Mary flinched as circulation returned to her hands but stayed silent, unwilling to show weakness before this stranger who had already given her more than anyone had in years. When the last rope fell, John steadied her, firm hands supporting her trembling form. Leaning against him, she felt a fragile security. In that silent moment, John made an unspoken vow. No man of honor would leave her side now. But as relief began to settle, the distance held a shadow, lingering and persistent, hinting that her ordeal might not yet be over. The ropes were gone, yet fear clung to Mary as tenaciously as ever. Her hands shook, but John's grip was unwavering, guiding her toward the horse. "Easy now," he murmured, calm as a rider soothing a skittish horse. "Breathe. You're still here." He won't touch you while I'm around." Mary tried to speak, lips trembling. "It's him, my stepfather. He wants the ranch. He won't stop." John's jaw hardened. Greed had twisted many men into monsters, but a man preying on his own kin burned a particular bitterness in a man's blood. Meeting her terrified gaze, he said firmly, "Listen to me. You're not alone anymore. Whatever he thinks he owns, he's wrong. That ranch is yours. He has no claim." Tears spilled down her cheeks, not just from fear, but from the comfort of being heard, of having someone on her side. John helped her into the saddle, her grip weak but determined. In one swift motion, he mounted behind her, steady and protective. The horse moved forward, carrying them away from the fence, away from the shadow of Hank's cruelty. The ride was silent, save for the creak of leather and pounding hooves. Mary leaned back slightly, trusting this stranger, her only chance. As the sun dipped low, they approached the ranch house. John carried her inside, wooden floors groaning underfoot. Dust and the scent of old timber filled the air, but at least she was free from the ropes. He set her down gently, fetched water, and tended to the cuts on her arms. His hands were rough yet careful, almost fatherly. Mary watched him, wondering why a stranger's concern could feel deeper than the man who claimed to be family. Night settled over the ranch, quiet yet weighted. Mary sat by the fire, wrapped in a blanket. John leaned against the wall, eyes sharp, aware that the danger was far from gone. Somewhere in the darkness, Hank still breathed, and men like him never relented easily. The night pressed heavy on the ranch, warm yet restless. Mary clutched her blanket tightly, eyes still shadowed by fear. John stood by the door, arms crossed, listening to every sound that crept through the darkness. He knew men like Hank. Once shamed, they never simply disappeared. They returned, and sure enough, the silence broke first with the crunch of boots on gravel, then the deliberate creak of the ranch gate. Mary froze, breath caught in her chest. John's hand hovered over the pistol at his belt. The door rattled violently as Hank's voice tore through the night. "You can't hide her from me, old man. That ranch is mine, and everything on it was mine." Mary's eyes welled with tears, but she no longer cowered. Trembling, she found her voice, rising from a place she had not known existed. "You're lying. Mama left it to me." "You'll never take it!" "Not again." The door burst open. Hank stormed in, eyes bloodshot, fist clenched, intoxicated with fury. He lunged at Mary, but John intercepted, solid as a wall of oak. Fists collided, boots scraped across the floor, furniture toppled, lanterns swung wildly, shadows dancing across the walls. Mary pressed herself into the corner, heart hammering, watching the struggle unfold. Hank swung hard, but John ducked, landing a blow that sent him staggering. Still Hank pressed on, fueled by rage and avarice. John's years of experience were etched into his face, but his strength and resolve remained unbroken. Each strike was not just for Mary, but for every innocent soul who had suffered under men like Hank. The room shook with the fight's intensity until John finally forced Hank down, pinning him to the floor. The pistol clattered away, the struggle reduced to raw will. John's voice cut low and sharp. "Your time's up. You're finished here." Mary stepped forward, legs trembling but eyes aflame. She gazed down at the man who had tormented her and spoke with unshakable conviction. "You will answer for what you've done. Not to me, not to him, but to the law." Hank's eyes flickered with fear, the truth hitting him. In the West, a man could run from his enemies, but he could never outrun justice. Would the frontier law finally bend him to its will? Or did he still have a final desperate trick hidden up his sleeve? Dawn crept slowly across the ranch, painting the sky in gold and crimson. Hank was no longer the shadow haunting Mary's nights. With John by her side, the county lawman rode in and took him into custody. The evidence, bruises, witnesses, Hank's own drunken rage spoke louder than any excuse. For the first time in years, Mary felt a weight lift from her chest. The ropes were gone, fear broken, replaced with a fragile, trembling hope. Life on the ranch did not immediately become easy. Fields required tending, fences needed repair, and silence still carried a sharp edge. Yet Mary was no longer a victim, she was a survivor. And she had John, the man who had stood between her and annihilation, who had shown her that justice still had teeth in the West. John remained on the ranch for a time, teaching her to ride with confidence, to aim straight, and above all, to stand tall in the face of fear. Mary, once a frightened 17-year-old, slowly grew into a woman of resilience and fire. Her scars became badges of endurance, proof not of shame, but of survival. Seasons shifted, and the ranch began to thrive again. Mary managed it with a steady hand, surprising herself with the strength she discovered within. Through it all, John stayed near, observing quietly, a guardian presence. Their bond deepened, not rushed, but nurtured by time and shared trials. Gratitude slowly gave way to a quiet, enduring love. It was not the love of fairy tales. It was forged in struggle, pain, and truth. The unshakable certainty that two souls could find each other even in the harshest lands. When Mary finally smiled, it was a smile that bore both sorrow and joy. She had been broken but never destroyed. Her story was a reminder that life often places our own Hank before us, not necessarily a man with fists, but cruelty, greed, betrayal. And when the world seemed hopeless, sometimes someone arrives to remind us that we are not alone. Mary and John's tale was more than a Western story. It was proof that strength grows from hardship, that justice, though delayed, arrives for those who endure, and that love can flourish even in the dry dust of despair. If this story has touched you, take a moment to like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next tale. Reflect. If you were in Mary's shoes, would you have fought back or surrendered to hopelessness? Share your thoughts in the comments. And to those watching late, remember to care for yourself. These stories are for your quiet moments, not to rob you of rest. Thank you for your time, your support, and your presence on this journey. Your eyes and hearts make this story worth telling.